This video started with me ranking every single Grand Prix in the Mario Kart series, but then I realized the first 5 minutes of this video would just be me hating on Super Mario Kart in Super Circuit, and nobody wants to watch that. So I changed course and decided to compare cups to ones in their own games. So with that said, what makes a good Grand Prix? What makes a bad Grand Prix? Is it based purely just on track quality? Mainly, but also how much does course flow get taken into account? All of this and more in today's video, going over the best and worst Grand Prix cups in each Mario Kart game. Firstly, let's start with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and work our way backwards. For 8 Deluxe, I'm going to do Booster Course Pass and base game separately, because there's so many cups in this game that it would be unfair to just talk about two. Firstly, the best Grand Prix in the Booster Course Pass is by far and away the Fruit Cup. The Fruit Cup starts with Amsterdam Drift, a slightly forgettable city track, but one that isn't too insufferable, and actually has some pretty fun shortcuts. Riverside Park is a nice remake of a Super Circuit track that takes the bones of that original track and transforms it into a quaint but thrilling racetrack. Then it takes us to DK Summit, a fan favorite from Mario Kart Wii, that brings back half pipes and the iconic double gap jump. Then finally ends the cup with the greatest Booster Course Pass original track, Yoshi's Island. A track that is both an incredible homage to the Yoshi's Island series and also has great track design, with one of the best catch-up gimmicks we've ever seen in a track. In total, the Fruit Cup is the Booster Course Pass at its best. Great throwbacks, great course design, and a great flow leading up to the grand finale on Yoshi's Island. A+. The honor of the worst Grand Prix in the Booster Course Pass goes to the Golden Dash Cup. This was the first cup from the first wave of the pass, and what an underwhelming way to get started. Paris Promenade, while a track with great iconography with the Eiffel Tower and Arc de Triomphe, falls flat with an uninspiring track layout and a boring third lap. Toad Circuit returns from Mario Kart 7, and I have no clue why. It was the hardly interesting starter track in that game, and that's basically what this serves as in the Booster Course Pass. Not to mention, it's the ugliest track in this game. Then we have Choco Mountain, which I do think gets a bit too much hate, but it's been remade so many times and is just a fairly average map. I'm never mad that I have to play it, but it just misses that something that makes it a track I'm eager to play. And then there's this game's rendition of Coconut Mall. Don't get me wrong, I love Coconut Mall, but this version just feels lifeless compared to Mario Kart Wii's. The escalators are basically just ramps here. The cars outside no longer have Miis in them, and overall, it just doesn't have the same charm it used to. I think it brings this cup up a bit, but not nearly enough to keep it from being the worst in the Booster Course Pass. The best Grand Prix in Mario Kart 8 is the Star Cup, and it's not even close. I thought about going with one of the DLC cups, as I stand firm saying that that's the best batch of 16 tracks we've ever gotten, but if we're talking high quality in a package of 4, Mario Kart 8's Star Cup is up there for one of the best in the series. You start at Sunshine Airport, a perfect track to start the cup. It's easy to learn, hard to master, as there's so many different cuts that you can take along the way that you'll be able to come back each lap and get slightly better every time you cross the finish line. Dolphin Shoals is usually credited as just that track with great music, and while that's true, the actual course is really fun too. The track is entirely set underwater, which can make it feel slow at times, but whether it be tricking off the air pipes, jumping through the rings, or riding the back of the eel, you'll come to love this track. Electrodrome, is basically the grown-up version of Sweet Sweet Canyon. Breaking paths galore, great mushroom cups, including one at the very end. It's one of the most visually appealing tracks in the game, and it's a great third leg of the Star Cup. Then to finish us off, Mount Wario hits us with the greatest point-to-point track to date. Starting from a Wario helicopter, we ride the tip of the mountain down through a water dam, through the trees, over bumps, and down the ski moguls. There's just so much heart in all of these tracks, and the progression and skill escalation moves perfectly, creating one of the greatest Grand Prix in the series. On the opposite side of the coin, Mario Kart Shell Cup leaves a lot to be desired. It's not the worst cup in the series, not even close, but it's a beginner retro cup, filled to the brim with some of the most bland and uninspiring remakes to date. Moo Moo Meadows, while a fun early course with lots of cuts, is fairly bland and uninspiring. GBA Mario Circuit is a fun remake of the original, with even an anti-gravity section with an Ultra Hand cameo, but isn't anything to write home about. Cheep Cheep Beach is a fairly unfun water course that gets outshined by the likes of Dolphin Shoals and Water Park in the base game. And Toad's Turnpike is a boring slog of straightaways and traffic that ends this cup on a whimper. It starts out fairly well with Moo Moo Meadows and GBA Mario Circuit, but then just completely falls off a cliff. On to our first non-Switch available game. Mario Kart 7, the often overlooked middle child of the series, actually comes in with what I think might just be the best cup in the series. Mario Kart 7's Lightning Cup is all killer, no filler. Koopa Cape starts us off with a fun and somewhat challenging course that takes full advantage of the glider and water mechanics of this game, giving it a nice little touch-up for Mario Kart 7. Then we head on over to Dino Dino Jungle for an absolute blast of a track that is both visually engaging and has one of the most underrated layouts in the series, not to mention the threat of being stepped on by a dinosaur. Then we've got Airship Fortress, which takes what it was in Mario Kart DS and brings it up to 11. It's a badass course that has you zooming through the airship, avoiding Monty Moles and flying through the sky. Then at the end of this Retro Cup finale, we have the one and only SNES Rainbow Road. While we might all be tired of SNES Rainbow Road by now, bringing this back in 2011 was life-changing and truly let the player experience what it was like to be on a Rainbow Road with no safety nets and no gimmicks. It was just you, your cart, and miles of colorful track to conquer. All 4 of these tracks I believe are top 25, if not top 15 Mario Kart tracks of all time. And the fact that all 4 of them were in one cup is absolute insanity. However, what isn't insanity is Mario Kart 7's Shell Cup. Yet again, 4 remakes of beginner tracks that just don't do it for me. It doesn't mean I think these tracks are bad, they're just pretty underwhelming. We start off with N64 Luigi Raceway, which is just as bland can get. It's serviceable, but nothing you'd select to play in versus multiplayer. Then there's GBA Bowser Castle 1, which I think is a cool return here, but just doesn't do too much besides being a neat little callback to the 2D games. Mushroom Gorge is the outlier here. Still a very fun track and would have been a very fun way to end the cup, but instead we get DS Luigi's Mansion, which I guess works as a finale, but that track is just so slow and just not too fun, especially the ending section through the mud. All in all, not the worst cup I've ever played, but not one I would revisit often. On to the current nostalgia classic, Mario Kart Wii does have some banger cups. While it was hard to just pick one, the Star Cup eventually ran away with it. It's everything you want in a great Grand Prix. Great tracks, a slight rise in difficulty and grandeur. Daisy Circuit is the perfect way to start it off. It is a fun track set at sunset with incredibly catchy music, and fun, unexpected shortcuts. Koopa Cape in its prime form is even better here, with rapid water taking you down to the tunnel below set with dangerous electric bars to dodge. Maple Treeway is one of the coziest settings in this series, but also makes sure to be a tightly made track with half pipes and leaf piles to drive through. Then to end it, Grumble Volcano takes us home with a track that literally crumbles away after each lap. The track gets tighter and less easy to navigate, as to make winning this race and the Grand Prix as a whole a daunting task. This no doubt is one of the greatest cups in the series. There just isn't a bad track here. Wii's Leaf Cup, while not entirely bad, just has no cohesion of flow at all. Desert Hills, while a somewhat popular track, never really does it for me, and is one of the more boring settings in this game. Bowser Castle 3, again, is just a pure remake of an SNES track that, while fun in spurts, isn't a classic like many other tracks in this game. DK Jungle Parkway is a fine addition here, still with that crazy jump in the middle. Then GameCube Mario Circuit, which, like, sure, but at the end of a cup, this was the second course in the Flower Cup in Double Dash, and you think this track is the retro equivalent to Grumble Volcano in the Leaf Cup? Get out of here. This cup makes no damn sense, and the tracks are mediocre at best. Mario Kart DS's best cup was a tough decision. While some other cups have higher highs, I believe it's the Star Cup that has the best overall quality throughout all 4 tracks. The first track is DK Pass, that while overlooked now for being the inferior version to DK Summit and Mount Wario, is still a fairly fun track with fun theming. Tick-Tock Clock is a fun throwback to the Super Mario 64 level of the same name, and incorporates its extremely unique theming into really creative mechanics throughout. Mario Circuit being the third track in the Star Cup is a very odd placement, but honestly, it works really well here. This Mario Circuit is one of the tougher ones in the series and doesn't hold your hand. Then finally, to end off the Star Cup, Airship Fortress does a great job of being the finale with a high-stakes race through the sky. And the worst Grand Prix in Mario Kart DS is the Shell Cup. The Shell Cup starts with SNES Mario Circuit 1, your run-of-the-mill, simple SNES circuit track. Next is Moo Moo Farm, a glorified oval with nothing else going on. Peach Circuit from Super Circuit, another circuit track that, to be fair, has a good layout and it has a decent amount of off-road for mushroom cups. Then to end it off, GameCube Luigi Circuit, another circuit track, but with a fun twist where the track is shaped like a bow tie, and as you drive back and forth, you ride the same road, passing other racers as they go by. This Grand Prix isn't terrible, but it's just fairly bland. 3 circuit tracks in Moo Moo Farm just isn't a Grand Prix that I'm going to be stoked to play too often. Double Dash was the last game to not have retro tracks, so we only have 4 cups to choose from. And while it may seem like the basic answer, I have to go with this game's special cup. Wario Coliseum is an all-time chaotic track that isn't everyone's cup of tea. However, the 2 laps of twisting and turning is one hell of a way to start a cup. Next, we have Dino Dino Jungle, again a fun track with a fun theme and fun layout. There's a reason this has been brought back so many times. Then we have this game's Bowser Castle, which is fairly underrated, but packs a punch with high-stress jumps and a Bowser statue that stops at nothing to fireball you. Then finally, Rainbow Road gives us a taste of anti-gravity before anti-gravity for a high-speed and high-risk finale. The worst cup in this game actually isn't too bad. I was actually surprised by how high quality all these cups were. However, I had to choose the Mushroom Cup here, as out of all the cups here, I believe it's the one with the least amount of banger tracks and the one with the most going against it. We start with Luigi Circuit, again a really cool middle section where you drive past other racers. It's especially fun here with the Double Dash mechanic, adding a bunch of items to add to the mania. Then we've got Peach Beach, and we're 2 in, and this cup is still pretty good. It's a fun Delfino themed track with cataquacks in your path and fun turns. Then our third track is Baby Park, which is a very controversial track. People either love it or hate it. I'm gonna be honest, I'm in the camp of loving it, but more so to antagonize the people I'm playing with. In single player Grand Prix, I can take it or leave it. Then to end off the cup, we have Dry Dry Desert, which is fine. It's a decent track with lots of enemies and off-road to add some challenge and replayability, but as the finale to the cup, it just honestly falls flat. This cup isn't terrible, I would even say it's pretty good, but compared to the rest in this game, it's a B+ surrounded by a bunch of A students. Now on to Super Circuit, I went ahead again with the Special Cup. Lakeside Park is just one of those tracks I'm just begging to see remade. A tropical paradise that over time is overtaken by lava blasts from a nearby volcano is one of the best concepts in a Mario Kart track, and the fact that it's from Super Circuit is just mind-blowing. Broken Pier usually gets lost in the shuffle with all the Ghost Boardwalk themed tracks, but this one's actually pretty solid. Bowser Castle 4 is a track that we haven't seen remade, but it's a complex Bowser Castle with lots of tight turns and jumps to keep you on your toes. Then to end the cup, we have this game's Rainbow Road, which, if mastered, can be one of the most fun in the series. It is really tough with lots of tight turns and no rails, but it's a worthy conclusion to end this game's Special Cup. The worst cup, on the other hand, is the Extra Special Cup. Yes, I know it's just another retro cup, but this cup does not do itself any favors with its track selection. It's basically the, hey, what were the worst tracks in Super Mario Kart? Okay, perfect. Let's bundle it together with Rainbow Road and call it the Extra Special Cup. Koopa Beach 2 is the biggest waste of space ever. There are so many twists and turns with these colorful barriers, but the track just plays like a big oval. There's just a big section in the middle with a bunch of lily pads that you can't even drive through, and it's there for no reason. Ghost Valley 3 I might be just a bit too harsh on, but it's just not that fun. There's no big glaring hole in its design. Well, actually there is, but it's just a track I'd prefer not to play. Vanilla Lake 2 actually has a lake you drive around, which would be fun if you weren't driving into snow blocks every 5 seconds. And then finally you end off on SNES Rainbow Road, which is a nice palate cleanser to end off this dreadful cup. The best cup in Mario Kart 64 is the Star Cup. I thought about going with the Special Cup as it has higher highs, but also has lower lows. You start off with Wario Stadium, which is quite the slog, but I think there's a charm to it. It is a race of stamina and endurance as much as it's a show of racing skill. Sherbert is probably the best looking track in this game with a fairly open concept track along with a nice cave section to change it up. Royal Raceway is a very great track layout with great moments like the jump here, along with the entirety of Peach's Castle, which is able to be driven around. Then to finish the cup, we have Bowser's Castle. This Bowser's Castle truly feels intimidating and dangerous as you drive around it, with whomps coming from every direction to attack you and claustrophobic hallways adding to the stress. The worst cup, on the other hand, is the Mushroom Cup. which unfortunately just falls victim to beginner cup syndrome. None of these tracks are all that interesting, and it makes for a boring Grand Prix. Luigi Raceway has nothing except the tunnel section. Moo Moo Farm is maybe even more boring than Luigi Raceway. Koopa Troopa Beach is fine, but it's honestly quite overrated for the amount of times it's been remade. And Calamari Desert is still pretty good, it's just a fairly simple cup that doesn't have too much going for it. Then finally, the one that started it all. Super Mario Kart's best cup, in my opinion, is the Flower Cup. Some of the later cups are just filled with concepts that are great on paper but annoying in practice. The Flower Cup is a good mixture of challenge and fun. Choco Island 1 is a pretty mediocre track to start us off, but does have a few nice challenges along the way to spice it up. Ghost Valley 2 is the best version of Ghost Valley, with nice turns and even a pretty cool jump shortcut here. Donut Plains 2 has a nice layout that unfortunately blocks a lot of nice potential cuts with barriers, but is overall still a pretty good time. Bowser Castle 2 is the best version of Bowser Castle in this game, with lots of fun jumps. And Mario Circuit 3 is by far the best track in this game, with a good amount of challenge and potential for making up time more than any other in this game. The Flower Cup is just solid all the way through. The Special Cup, on the other hand, is just evil for evil's sake. Donut Plains 3 does have more room for mushroom cuts, but adds a mandatory bridge jump that you'll fail more times than not. Koopa Beach 2, again, is just a waste of space trying to pretend it isn't just another boring oval. Ghost Valley 3 is again fine, but by far the worst of its 3 iterations. Vanilla Lake 2 is just avoid running into Snowblock Simulator, and Rainbow Road, while good, is just held back by the 4 other bad tracks in this cup. Anyways, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think the best and worst cups are down below, and be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.